Change of pace now, though, and eating disorders affect hundreds of thousands of Australians, and tragically, they're on the rise in this country. Sydney woman Mia Finlay, though, is bravely sharing her own battles in the hope of saving lives by breaking down the stigma. Here's a look at her YouTube channel, what Mia did next.
If I was thin enough and pretty enough and physically as perfect as I could be, then everything would be okay. I was restricting a lot, and lost so much weight that I started to lose my hair. Still in denial, still didn't think I had an eating disorder because I didn't look how people look when they have an eating disorder. I wasn't emaciated, I wasn't thin. The turning point for me was that I just couldn't do it anymore because there's no thin enough, small enough, sick enough. It will never be satisfied until it kills you.
It's very raw and very real, and I'm happy to say Mia joins us now. Mia, thank you for joining us and for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
It must have been an incredibly difficult decision to start sharing your own battles so personally and so bravely and so publicly like that.
Oh, thank you. It was actually purely by accident. I naively put my story up on the internet sort of as a diary, and nobody really wants their diary to be read. But over the years, it's just been likes, comments building, and now 4 years later, we've got a community of almost 29,000 people from all over the world.
So you started that YouTube channel when you started your recovery.
Correct.
Talk me through that time in your life.
So I was really in a steady decline. I'd been sick for 6 years, but probably chronically ill for 2. And I decided I had had enough. I couldn't live like that anymore. And the only thing I hadn't tried was going and getting help. So I got in touch with my GP, which I'd really encourage people to do in the first instance, who put me in touch with a phenomenal psychologist, and decided before I went off for my first appointment, I'd really like to have a record of this, because maybe in a year, it'll be completely different. And now, 4 years later, I couldn't have imagined how far it's come.
You're using this platform that you now have, 40,000 people following you on this incredible YouTube channel of yours. You're using this platform now to speak about the gap that there is in this country when it comes to support and when it comes to misconceptions around diagnosis too. What's the problem? Where are people being let down?
I think in the first instance, the most important thing people should know is that these mental illnesses, eating disorders, kill more people than any other mental illness and receive the least funding. And it's been like that for a long time, which is pretty appalling. There's only 37 public hospital beds across the entire nation and nothing in regional areas. So we've got a long way to go. It's all about funding and awareness and people educating themselves. So I think that also the stereotype of people hear eating disorder and they see anorexia. That's only 3 to 4% of the eating disorder sufferer population. Many people would be surprised to find out 47% are suffering from binge eating disorder. So there's a lot of work to do.
Well, with that knowledge then, share it with people. What are the warning signs that people should look out for if they're worried that someone they know and love is suffering, particularly from one of those binge eating disorders?
I think a real preoccupation with food. I think the thing to really focus on is that the physical manifestation is just a bit of a distraction. That's what the eating disorder makes it look like, that it's a preoccupation with wanting to be thin or with food, where in essence it's a mental illness. So even though we don't all look the same in our different diagnoses, what we're suffering from mentally is pretty uniform, and that's what really needs to be treated. And I think that's where the focus needs to change a little bit.
Reaching out and broaching the issue can be the hardest thing of all, particularly for a mother, a father, a brother or a sister. Just give us some advice, finally, on how to raise that subject with someone who may be suffering. How do you approach it?
I think very gently and not too confrontational, obviously. I think we really need to put the onus on listening. Everyone wants to have solutions and come with answers, and I think that we need to focus on listening and validating. And I would really encourage people, particularly parents, to go to the Butterfly Foundation website. They have wonderful resources on how to approach this, and go and have a chat with your GP if you're worried about a child who's struggling.
Well done to you for being so brave and so honest with your own experience and for sharing it with so many. And you have been recognised with a nomination as in the Pride of Australia Awards too, which is well deserved. So well done to you.
Thank you
so much for sharing that with us this morning.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate it. And as Mia mentioned, if you or anyone you know is experiencing an eating disorder or body image concerns, you can call the Butterfly Foundation helpline, 1800 334673. Thank you very much, Mia.
Thank you.
Carlo.